It took $700+ to finally realize we weren't paying the right people.
Make sure you know who you're talking to.
Yeah. What's up, guys? So to answer any questions that you might be thinking, yes, this is real, and yes, this is like very recent, and it's kind of scary. So
Just a little bit.
just a little bit, because you don't think it's going to happen to you unless you're dumb like us, at least for the first part of the story. But shall we inform them of our scamming experience?
So I'm just gonna start off and say when he married me, he also married my student loan debt.
Oh, here's the thing. I knew about it. I knew what I was getting into, and I still chose to marry
So
her.
sweet.
Sweet or crazy? Anyways,
But we knew we owed, I don't need to hit the table. We knew we owed a little bit in student loans, about $12,000 thanks to me. And so after you graduate, you end up having to repay those loans,
that's how it works. Get over it. Just do it.
which is awesome. So I graduated last December, and now in July, that's when we were supposed to start paying back my student loans.
Yeah, so call us crazy. It's dumb. Like, you're told all the time, don't answer these calls, don't do this or that or whatever, okay? So I'm just going to preface, we're kind of idiots for doing this. But it was so convincing. Here's what happened. There was one day back in July where we got a phone call. Well, she got a phone call, and whenever we answered it, it was very professional sounding dude talking, saying, hey, is this Haley McMullen? And I'm so-and-so, and this is about your loans and stuff like that. And like, we were sketched out at first. We're like, no, this is dumb. No, we shouldn't even be talking to these people. But we were thinking, like, if they could tell us the information that was on the account, then it's like, then we would know that they were for real. And so throughout the conversation, they actually started giving us all the information that was on our account. And I just paid a good chunk of the loans back, and he was able to tell me all that. And we didn't really give him any information. So we're like, first of all, how does he know this? But if he was working for the right people, then he would have every right to know that. So we're thinking, you know what, this is actually the real deal. He starts talking about how he's actually part of a loan forgiveness program from a very well-respected company in the loan payment, the loan world. It's a company called Nelnet. It's that, hey, we're from Nelnet, and we actually work as a loan forgiveness program that that you guys are definitely qualified for. And we were like, you know what? After an hour, we actually enrolled in the program. Okay, I know it sounds dumb, but I'm telling you, it made so much sense at the time. Okay. Anyways, we got our payments down to about $84. They told us, for the first 5 weeks, you're gonna pay for the first 5 months, you were going to pay a little over double that. So it was like $185 for the first 5 months that we had to pay. So everything else, it works out to where you'll be saving around $3,000. We're like, that's awesome.
We're like,
right?
okay, cool. That sounds great. We're going to save money, and it's going to be a good time. We're going to be adults and pay back loans. But 2 months later, after we had done all that with this other company that we were working with, 2 months later we got something in the mail from FedLoan for payment on student loans, and I've actually had an account.
Yeah, FedLoan's the actual people that own all of our stuff. Like, they're the people that we actually should be getting in contact with.
We get this letter, and we're like, wait a second, who is this? Like, what are we doing? We were really confused. And so we called FedLoan, and we talked to them about us working with Nelnet already. And then they assured us that it would take some time because they would have to communicate. When we paid Nelnet, it would take about 30 days or so for Nelnet to talk to FedLoan, and so it was just a long,
Nelnet.
Nelnet, something I forgot. FedLoan wanted bank statements showing that we were paying Nelnet already. So I shoot them an email saying, hey, what is the email that we need to send the bank statements to, and all this fun stuff. We never got a response.
Never responded. Like the actual people never responded.
Yeah,
We think,
FedLoan
yeah,
never
kidding me.
responded.
So what are we supposed to do except for continue to wait, right? Because they won't get back to us. And so we're kind of between a rock and a hard place. They said it was going to take some time anyways. So now we're just kind of playing the waiting game. Well, what happened is we ended up figuring out somewhere along the line that we were locked out of both our Nelnet, which is the fake account, and our FedLoan accounts. Like both of them we were locked out of, and whenever we would go to try to get those figured out, they would send the new email to the new password to the correct email, right? Well, on both accounts, there was this bogus email that was put on there. It was her handle, so it looked like it was the right one, but instead of being at Yahoo, Gmail, whatever it is, it was at Rocket Email. These people, Nelnet, went in and changed like everything about our account. We couldn't get in or anything, and so that's where our new password was being sent to.
So after a little while, I really was like, okay, no, I need to call them and figure out what's going on with my account. So I called FedLoan in October about my locked account. They eventually told me that I was on forbearance for not paying.
That's what got me mad. Whenever they told us that we were on
Yeah.
forbearance, I'm like, y'all hadn't answered anything, but they probably tried to get in contact with us, but through the wrong email, so they had the wrong ones. Like, so they couldn't get in contact. They wouldn't answer us whenever we tried to email them off the website. So whenever they said forbearance, like that stuff like trashes your credit, and I'm like that's where I got a little upset.
Yeah, and the lady I was talking to, I ended up telling her that we were working with this third party.
That's when things started to click a little bit.
When I called about my locked account, I told them that my email was wrong, and so they needed to fix my email on the account. And that tipped her off to ask a few more questions to figure out that we weren't working with Nelnet, we were actually working with the scammers.
Yeah. So basically, to recap, so far, the scammers went into both of our accounts and they changed all of our stuff so that we could not get contacted or log into any of the accounts. And that's why we never heard of anything. Like, they're smart. That's what they do on a daily basis. So we're just supposed to sit and play the waiting game while we keep dishing out money, right? And we think that it's okay. So later that day, she kind of tells me, hey, they said that we're on forbearance and all this stuff. And I'm like, are you kidding me? Like, no, like, let me call them. Let me explain everything that's going on. Let me explain that we have been paying back. They just haven't been, getting our stuff or responding to our emails. And so we end up calling them back, and the lady starts to tell me everything that she told Haley, because I didn't want to believe it. I'm thinking like, no, this is just miscommunication. Like, I didn't want to believe that it was scammers. But whenever we were on the phone, this lady was awesome, right? She's like, look, I'm just going to be blunt with you. And she said, you're working with a third-party scammer. And like, at the same time, like, that I didn't want to hear that, I was still like, I don't know, I was very happy that she was so blunt. Like, that's what I want people to do, just be honest. Be honest, let's tear the Band-Aid off. So she's like, look, you're working with a third-party scammer. You guys have been paying somebody that's not real. And so I started asking some questions. I was like, so how do we go about getting out of this contract or whatever? She's like, well, chances are you verbally agreed and you verbally signed to do this, so it's all up to what their contract is to see if you can't get out of this contract. And so maybe you're paying them until you go to, and here's what she said, until maybe you take it to the FTC. I can't remember what it stands for, I just remember it was FTC. She says you can file a complaint there, and then they'll start doing some studies and investigating who this is. And she said that would probably be the only way to get out of this thing. And so I was thinking, you know what? I might could do a little better than that. So I hand Haley the phone. So she starts talking to the Fed loan people. Meanwhile, I call these Nelnet people, the scammers, and I get on the phone, and now instead of somebody professional, it's somebody that was really sketchy to talk to. So I knew that he was supposed to sit there and tell me, no, it's going to be okay, no, it's going to be okay, whatever. And so I was like, I answered the phone, or he answered the phone. He's like, hey, can I help you? I was like, hey, I've got a couple of questions that I've already talked to a couple of people, and so I was like, yeah, the other person sent me to a manager and we got disconnected, so can you just send me back to that manager? It was a small lie, but it's how you get to the manager, because they don't want anybody to get there. And so he was like, oh yeah, I can send you to the manager. And so I talked to the manager, and I was like, hey, I heard a couple of things about this company, and we were wondering what the cancellation policy is if we wanted to cancel. And she was like, okay, well, before I can tell you anything else, I need this information from you. And I was like, well, I don't want to give you that information, because every time we give you that information, you guys go in and you switch up everything on the account to where you lock us out and everything. And she was like, sorry, that's part of our contract. I have to have this information. And so I'm sitting there thinking, like, she won't budge. So do I give her this information again? And so I was like, okay, here's the deal. I said, I will give you this information, but I have to know if I do, you are going to cancel the account. And so what I did was I lied a little bit. I said, because here's what happened. I've already been in contact with FTC. I don't know who that is, but I said it. I said, I've already been in contact with FTC, with Fed Loan, and my bank, and they all three told me to call and say that if you didn't cancel our account, then to simply tell them and they'll take care of it. And so this lady, you could tell she was getting kind of nervous on the phone, and she was like, look, I can cancel your account, but I need to get in and I need this information. And so I was like, okay, so she's a little scared now. She knows that we're the real deal. And so I finally gave her the information that they needed to log in. And she said, it's gonna take just 2 seconds, and I'll cancel this for you. And so she did something. She was like, okay, it's canceled. I was like, are you sure? She's like, yeah, I'm sure. So we're assuming by this point we're actually canceled out of this. It took $700+ to finally realize we weren't paying the right people. And so this is kind of your public service announcement, especially to you college guys and girls. Like, look, do not answer a phone call about anything Fed loan, anything loan related. They will contact you by mail, or they will contact you by your email.
They'll contact you with something that is secure. Over the phone is not secure.
Yeah.
For whatever reason, we thought this was a good idea to do, and it's not. So before you lose money, make sure you know who you're talking to. Because they'll sound convincing. We were duped.
Yeah, they were so professional. To end, I guess we should tell you, there's a good ending to it. We called our bank and we staked the claim and told them that there was a website still in our money, and they paid us basically the money back and said we'll investigate it. And so maybe 2 birds with 1 stone. We got our money back, and they're hopefully going to go take out these scammers. So there you go. There's our story about being scammed out of a lot of money. Oh. By the way, if you haven't already, subscribe and hit the bell. Just do those 2 things. If you like us, you can keep up with our videos and everything like that. And that's kind of how we get paid now, at least a little bit. So why not?
And I'll give y'all a little spoiler. We got the last big piece of furniture for our nursery.
Yes.
This past week, and so be on the lookout for a nursery tour. We're not telling you when it's coming out because we also don't know when it's coming out. So it'll definitely be before the baby comes.
Yeah.
So due date's Christmas Day. Hopefully y'all don't forget that.
See you later.
That was
We did it at the same time, right?
ready to go.